Let's talk about the Warriors situation, because the good news is they go on the road in game one and beat Minnesota. The bad news is they may not have Steph Curry for the remainder of this series. And who knows how long, depending on whether this is a grade 1 hamstring strain, if it's grade 2. By the time this show airs, depending on where you're watching us and when, we probably will know that information. At the very least, he's not playing in game 2, which is obviously good news for the Timberwolves, bad news for the Warriors. Where are you going when you look at this series and sort of the way it plays out with at least no Curry in game 2, but at the same time, a T-Wolves team that looked awful in game 1. You got Chris Finch calling out his superstar in Anthony Edwards. How does that play into the remainder of this series? Go.
I think Finch knows Edwards enough to know that that was the button to push, right? Like that. This is a guy who wants to be thought of as a top 5 player in the world, as one of the future face of the league kind of guys. Well, this is where you make that money. This is where you get to be that guy. And he's not only look, he had 2 rough games. He had a rough game. They didn't really have a great offensive outing in game 5 against the Lakers. It's just they figured out how to dominate the Lakers by the end of that series with their defense. Their offense was dreadful in game 1, and it's got to bounce back in game 2. They can't look, digging that hole to the Indiana Pacers with the Cavaliers is bad. You do not want to dig the hole with the Warriors, and Jimmy Butler's still there, and Draymond Green hitting Draymond Green's hitting threes. That's when you know you're just in trouble. But Anthony Edwards sets the tone. I mean, he's the best player he's supposed to be the best player in the series. He's certainly the best player on this team. And if you start 0 of 10 and have 1 point in the first half and you're just flat, everybody's going to be flat. And they never got out of it. They just never fully came around until you started to see a spark of life too late.
There's no way the Warriors can win this series if Curry's out the rest of the series, though, is there?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think they win the series if Curry's could come back next game. Look, I still think Minnesota's the better team. I picked them, frankly, in 5. I thought they'd kind of rolled them. They had a horrible first game, but I think they're one of those teams where, and we can talk about this with Oklahoma City later at some point, what did you learn? What are you learning? Are you able, this is where you have to take that next step as a team. They kind of did it against the Lakers. Can they do it in this series? Can they come back? And again, if you don't have Curry, you should be able to hold the Warriors to under 100 points every night. And then you got to find some offense.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of onus on Jimmy Butler.
Look, you're gonna need playoff Jimmy to steal you a game. Now you got 2, and now you're in 6, and you can start to fudge your way through this thing if you can drag it out long enough. But like you said, if this is just a grade 1 sprain, that's a minimum of a week.